and welcome to Newsclick. Today we have with us D. Raghunandan of the All India People Science Network and a commentator on defense related issues. Raghu, we have the recent Rafale deal which has been concluded with Mr. Modi, it appears. We don't have the price, and it also seems that what was almost a 7 or 8 years process of negotiations and a tender has been abandoned. So how do you look at this? Have we gained out of this? Have we got better prices? What's really happened?
I personally think we have lost in 3 ways. The first is that I think we have now reopened the entire question of how do we buy equipment from abroad. The BJP government today is virtually saying that this method of going for a global tender is wrong, and that all strategic equipment should be bought on a purely government to government basis, which to my mind will reopen the old questions of special interests, whether there is corruption involved or not. The idea of doing an open tender was precisely so that these kinds of questions would be avoided. That's one loss. The second loss is the original tender was for 126 aircraft. The idea being that you would have sufficient aircraft to form a muscular component of the Indian Air Force. Today, with 36 aircraft being acquired, it's just a couple of squadrons of aircraft. We are going back to what I've long called the menagerie approach of the Indian services. It's like a zoo. You've got a few squadrons of Jaguars, you've got a few squadrons of Mirage, you've got a few squadrons of MiG-27. This is posing enormous logistical and maintenance problems to our ground crews, each of whom have to be aware of the maintenance procedures, stock spares for a dozen or more aircraft. This is not a way a professional Air Force should operate. And the third loss is that the earlier contract, being for a larger number of aircraft, also involved sufficient manufacture in India. With 36 aircraft completely purchased outright, where that is going, nobody knows.
So 3 issues that you have raised. Let's come to the first one, which is the procurement policy.
Yes.
Now, the procurement policy was actually set under the Vajpayee government. So what they're scrapping is their policy set under NDA, where they said what happened before wasn't right, we need an open purchase procurement policy, and this is it.
That's
so
right.
They are really disagreeing with their own policies.
That's right. And they are also disagreeing with the general trend today, which is what World Bank insists on, all the international agencies insist on, that everything should be done through an open tendering process. Now they are saying all strategic procurement should be done through a government. Who is going to decide what is to be procured? Who is going to decide?
Raghu, it appears that this is a consequence of Modi's visiting France. So it is this government to government contracts really means what Mr. Modi feels when he visits a particular country. That seems to be the defense policy.
Also, the danger of this is that tomorrow, most of the deals that we have, the defense hardware purchases India has done from the US have been government to government. This will be government to government. Tomorrow they will do Israeli government to government. This is easier, politically expedient, but we don't know what's going to come out of it. Transparency goes out the window, and nobody is the wiser as to what these contracts are all about.
Even today, we don't even have the price of the aircraft,
Exactly.
what has been decided.
Exactly.
And they're now saying actually the price, etc., will be decided in the negotiations that will take place now. So 36 aircraft purchase you decide before,
That's right.
and then you discuss what the price and the terms and conditions
That's
of it are going to be.
That's right. It's very strange. And one assumed that after all these long years of setting the terms of the tender, negotiating, based on the Air Force's requirement of 126 aircraft. So the Air Force's requirement also goes out the window. So whose requirement is this? The defense ministers? The Modi government's?
Or Mr. Modi's. As a Prime Minister,
That's
he wants
right.
to shine in
So
France.
I think this is a completely non-transparent way of doing things, and once again puts the politics ahead of what the strategic and military's requirements are.
And in this case, the politics is really the Prime Minister's need to
negotiate a particular deal.
Yeah. Coming to the second issue that you have raised on the question of what has posed a lot of problems and so on.
Yes.
Now, this had actually a position that 108 aircraft would be manufactured in India by HAL. That was a part of the conditions. So, HAL is now being left high and dry.
Yes.
It is also, Mr. Mohan Parikar has also said that it could be done by somebody else as well.
Yes.
And it appears that Reliance, Mr. Ambani, Anil Ambani was in negotiations with Dassault just after this. So, it does again seem to be a pork barrel approach, that you are going to favor some particular private company in all this.
100% agreed. And I think the whole idea of having a private sector partner for the international OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, suits the OEMs because they know very well that if they have a state sector partner in India, the bargaining power of the state sector partner will be greater and they will have to deal more in technology transfer. Whereas a private sector partner like the Reliance Group, who have no background in aviation or strategic weapons manufacture of any kind, will be purely subcontractors. And they will be essentially acting as a outreach subcontracting partner for Dassault, who will subcontract whatever they feel like. So, there is no prospect for any genuine technology transfer if there is a private sector technology partner of this kind. The big loss also is, apart from the large chunk of domestic manufacture that would have taken place with the 128 aircraft, is that the structure of the Airforce, the move to getting a bulk of these from Dassault meant that the Airforce was structured around 3 or 4 aircraft, each of substantial numbers. The Sukhois, the Rafales, the LCAs to come, and the standing MIGs which are there, which are soon going to be phased out, and then the 5th generation aircraft which we are supposedly co-developing with Russia. That makes for a more integrated, thought through and rationalized Air Force than, as I said, the zoo approach which we are stuck with today because of these serial small lot procurements that we do.
The other part of it is the Make in India so-called tom-tomming that
which has gone out the window if you are buying outright.
So, 50% offset is being thrown out.
Yes.
HAL is being thrown out.
Yes.
You have 36 off-the-shelf items, aircraft bought.
That's right.
So, there is really no Make in India.
No.
And yet you talk about Make in India,
Exactly.
the same breadth.
Completely gone out the window.
So, this is really something which would, under any other circumstance, would have called for a lot of investigations.
Absolutely.
That you have a 7-year process which you abandon in one day, which has been, the Air Force, others have been involved in it. You don't give the other competitor, in this case the Typhoon Eurofighter,
a chance
to match the bid.
Exactly.
And it is all done as a part of a state visit. This sounds completely arbitrary.
Absolutely. I think it's completely arbitrary. It's completely non-transparent. Nobody knows whose needs are being met, and if the argument is that it's a strategic deal and therefore should be done on a government to government basis, then surely those protracted negotiations on the Dassault Rafale, if it was going on, government to government could have contracted the areas of disagreement and the same deal could have gone through.
Last point, that the whole argument that we need urgently aircraft. Yeah. Well, Dassault is not going to be really able to give it before 4 years, 36 aircraft. This whole, they are, I think, making 1 fighter a month at the moment.
That's right.
For them to even gear up, it's going to take them 18 months.
Definitely.
So, this argument itself also doesn't stand much ground.
Absolutely right. And the urgency also was not just for 2 squadrons of aircraft. If there is an urgency, you are replacing something like 200 plus MIGs. That you are talking of. 2 squadrons of Rafales is not going to solve that problem. So, I really don't see what is happening here and where this is going.
Thank you very much, Raghu. Hope to discuss this with you further when such issues come up again. Sure. Thank you very much. you.